All right, so today we're going to be taking a look at PK Subban
Okay.
and some of the training that he does in the off season. And I think you're going to find it very, very interesting how
Yeah.
different it is
Oh, sure.
than what you would think
Oh,
somebody at his level would be doing.
Yeah.
We have some articles here from his strength and conditioning coach,
Okay.
Clance Laylor.
Mm-hmm.
And Clance Laylor's got some really interesting ideas
Yeah.
that we're going to be looking at today.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, like you were saying, it's so unconventional, his approach.
Yeah,
It's so different from what you see so many other athletes doing.
exactly.
You see them in the gym,
Right.
just pumping iron, doing all of these
Yeah.
very isolated exercises.
Yeah.
Trying to mimic every single movement that they'll do on the ice or on the field. And Subban and his coach, they say no to all that.
They really do.
Yeah.
But before we even get into the specifics of what he does and doesn't do, can you believe this guy has a documentary
Oh, yeah.
about his training?
I know, it's crazy.
I mean, come on, who does that?
Well, I mean, he's
PK Subban.
skate past the noise.
Yeah.
The off season came out back in 2016.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting time in his career, too,
Right.
because this is when he moved from Montreal to Nashville.
Yeah.
So you see that whole, kind of transition and how he prepped for that.
Yeah. And he's hanging out with Snoop Dogg in it.
Yeah, and Ben Johnson, I think, even.
And Ben Johnson, yeah. So,
Pretty cool.
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Cool. That's a good training partner to have.
That's a good training partner. Yeah.
So this documentary and also these articles by his strength coach really highlight some of the things that he doesn't do.
Right.
He does not do weighted shooting drills.
Yeah.
He doesn't do any kind of rotational or cable core exercises.
Yeah, like when you think of core, you think of
Yeah.
twisting and turning and all that. Or using cables and doing wood chops and stuff.
Yeah, or being on a
Yeah.
Bosu ball.
Exactly. All that stuff.
Yeah, no, he doesn't do any of that.
Nope. And he also doesn't do any of those exercises that try to perfectly mimic what he does on the ice.
Yeah,
Which, again, you think of that as being standard practice.
right.
You want to train the exact movements.
But he doesn't.
Not just
But he doesn't. And he stays away from unstable surface training completely.
Yeah.
So that begs the question, why?
Yeah. Why would an athlete at his level intentionally skip all this stuff
Yeah.
that, is supposed to be so important?
Well, that's the thing, is that they have a very specific focus
Okay.
in their training.
Yeah.
So he's doing squats,
Okay.
front squats, Olympic lifts, clean snatches,
Mm-hmm.
pull-ups, chin-ups, different kinds of jumps and throws.
Got it.
And he's doing variations of those pretty much every day.
Okay. So it's like they're focusing on these big
Yeah.
fundamental movements.
Exactly. So we're not looking at, isolated
Right.
bicep curls and...
It's not about building individual muscles.
Yeah.
It's about training the whole body
Right.
as a unit.
As a system.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
It's gotta-
which makes sense when you think about the demands of hockey.
Yeah, you've got to be able to move explosively.
Mm.
You've got to have that coordination. You can't be, just strong in one
Right.
area.
Yeah, it's not about bench pressing a ton of weight.
Right.
It's about being able to generate power and be agile
Mm-hmm.
and move quickly.
And I think this is a good place to introduce the concept of the athlete activation system,
Right.
which is something that Clance Laylor developed. And we'll
Yeah.
talk more about that in detail later on. But
Yeah.
I think it's important to kind of set the stage here.
Yeah.
So when Subban first started working with Clance Laylor back in 2008,
Okay.
he was not the peak athlete that we see today.
Right.
He had a 19% body fat percentage when
Right.
he first started.
That's hot.
Yeah, they identified several muscle weaknesses and imbalances. So,
Even elite athletes have room for improvement.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that Laylor didn't try to fix everything immediately.
Right.
They put together a 3-year plan for
Right.
him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that kind of shows their commitment to this long-term development.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Subban talks about is the whole nonsense of core training.
Well, yeah.
He actually says that was one of the biggest mistakes
Right.
he made early in his career, was buying into that.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of athletes, actually,
Yeah.
that they spend so much time doing crunches and planks and all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
thinking that's going to give them
Yeah, 6-pack, and that's going to make them,
Yeah.
better on the ice.
right.
And what Clance Laylor says is that the core muscles are primarily force transducers,
Okay.
not prime movers for
Interesting.
generating power.
So, what does that actually mean?
Well, so basically he's saying that those isolated core exercises,
Right.
while they might look impressive
Yeah.
in the gym,
Right. You could do 1,000,000 crunches.
yeah,
Right.
they don't translate to the explosive force that you need in a sport like hockey.
Got it. So it's not really functional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So instead of focusing on those isolated movements, Clance Laylor builds core strength
Okay.
through those compound exercises that we were
Okay.
talking about before.
Right.
So the squats,
Yeah.
the Olympic lifts,
These jumps.
the jumps,
Yeah.
those all engage the core
Got it.
as it's meant to work.
Right. As a stabilizer
Right.
and a force transmitter.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's not the sole focus, but it's working the core.
Right. It's working it in a way that's actually beneficial
Right.
for his sport.
As part of a larger system.
Exactly.
And I think this is a really important takeaway here. You can achieve really, really incredible athleticism without getting bogged down in those traditional and sometimes misleading training methods.
Yeah. I mean, it makes you wonder how much of what we think we know about training is actually just like outdated or just plain wrong.
Right.
You know?
And Clance Laylor is very vocal about this in the articles that he's written. He's basically urging aspiring athletes
Yeah.
to ditch those ineffective methods
Right.
and embrace a system that prioritizes
Mm-hmm.
functional strength and overall athleticism. He's like, stop wasting your time on gimmicks and build a solid foundation.
Love that.
And I have to say, I'm kind of rethinking my own workouts now.
I know, me too. It's really making me question some things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Subban's approach, guided by Laylor's expertise, I think is a really compelling example of how questioning conventional wisdom can lead to
amazing results.
Extraordinary results.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and while we might not all be aiming for
Right.
NHL level performance, although that would be kind of fun.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think the principles here are applicable to anybody who wants to improve.
Anyone who wants to move better,
Yeah.
feel better,
Yeah.
perform better.
So it's really about understanding how your body moves, what it needs to perform optimally, and then tailoring your training accordingly.
Yeah.
Now, before we get too carried away with dreams of scoring game-winning goals, let's maybe delve a little deeper into this athlete activation system.
Now, let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This article only gives us a taste, but I'm really intrigued to understand how it all comes together.
Absolutely. And that's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
We'll really break down this system.
Okay.
Look at the key principles and then talk about how it can be applied, you know, beyond professional sports.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Me too. So this athlete activation system.
Yeah, I'm really interested in it.
Yeah.
From what I understand, it seems to be all about the body working together as a system
Yeah.
instead of isolating muscle groups.
Exactly.
It's kind of like retraining our understanding of how strength and movement really work.
Yeah, you've got it.
Okay.
That's a great way to put it.
So how does that actually translate to training, though?
So Laylor's system is really based on this deep understanding of biomechanics.
Okay.
Like how our muscles and bones and joints all work together to create movement. And he really emphasizes this idea of the kinetic chain.
Okay.
Which is like,
yeah, I've heard of that.
You know, the interconnectedness of our body. And his argument is that when we isolate muscles, we're actually disrupting that natural flow of energy and force.
Interesting. So like instead of working with the body, we're kind of working against it in a way.
Exactly.
Okay, so how does this athlete activation system look different?
So the big thing with Laylor's approach is that he focuses on finding and addressing weaknesses within that kinetic chain.
Okay.
So he believes that imbalances in strength and mobility can really screw up your movement patterns.
Okay.
You know, like they can lead to reduced power output and even increase your risk of injury.
Got it.
So it's kind of like a chain, you know,
Right.
if one link is weak.
The whole chain's going to break.
Exactly.
So how does he go about like identifying those weak links?
Well, he starts with a really comprehensive assessment.
Okay.
So he uses a series of movement tests to look at things like flexibility, stability, and coordination.
And this is all before he even starts to create a training program. Okay.
Yeah, this is like step one.
So he's not just focusing on like how much somebody can lift.
No.
Yeah.
It's about how they move.
Yeah.
How their body works as a whole.
Okay, so once he's identified those weaknesses.
Then the real fun begins.
Oh, okay.
That's where he designs these personalized training programs.
Okay.
And they're all about targeting those specific areas.
So this is where like the squats and the Olympic lifts and stuff come in?
Exactly.
Okay.
He uses a lot of those exercises.
Yeah.
But he also incorporates a lot of corrective exercises.
Okay.
So these are things that are designed to address like mobility restrictions and improve those movement patterns.
So it's like a holistic approach.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not just about lifting heavy weights.
Yeah, it's about making sure that your body is moving correctly.
Yeah, efficiently and effectively.
Okay. And I guess this all ties back to that long-term vision
Exactly.
we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it's about building a strong, resilient athlete.
Over time.
Not chasing quick fixes.
No quick fixes here.
Okay. And this is where I think Subban's story is so inspiring.
Yeah.
Because remember that initial assessment back in 2008?
19% body fat.
19% body fat.
Yeah.
Muscle imbalances.
Weaknesses.
Laylor didn't try to like magically transform him overnight.
No.
They had that 3-year plan.
They had a plan.
Yeah, to rebuild his foundation.
Yeah.
And really unlock
his potential.
His athletic potential.
Yeah.
And that was all based on this athlete activation system.
Exactly.
Okay, and that's what's so cool about this.
Yeah.
It's not just for, like, elite athletes.
Right.
You know?
It's for everybody.
Think about how many people, like, struggle with injuries. Or, limited mobility, or they just
feel weak.
Yeah.
Or they feel like they're not moving as well as they could be.
Right. And this system is kind of a blueprint for addressing those issues.
Yeah, it's about finding the root cause.
Which is often, those weak links.
In the kinetic chain.
In that kinetic chain.
Yeah. Okay, this is all making so much sense to me now.
Good.
But I have to admit,
yeah,
sometimes I get overwhelmed.
I get it.
By all the information out there.
Oh my gosh. There's so much.
About fitness and training.
Yeah. It's like one day squats are good, the next day they're bad.
Yeah. How do we know what to trust?
Yeah. It's tough, right?
It is.
I think the key is to look beyond the surface.
Okay.
Like try to understand the principles behind a training approach. So why does Subban train the way he does?
Yeah.
Why does Laylor focus on the kinetic chain?
Okay.
When you understand those underlying principles, then you can start to filter out all the noise.
Got it. So be an informed consumer.
Exactly.
Don't just blindly follow trends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do your research.
Yeah, and I think Subban's story is a good reminder that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
He was willing to challenge those conventional training methods.
He didn't just do what everybody else was doing.
Yeah.
He found what worked for him.
And it's really about finding what works for your body.
Exactly.
Your goals, your individual needs.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's funny is this whole conversation about the athlete activation system and the kinetic chain.
Yeah.
It's really making me think differently about my own workouts.
Yeah.
I'm realizing that I tend to focus on isolated exercises.
Oh, too?
Yeah.
That we all do.
Trying to target specific muscles.
Right.
What if instead of trying to isolate muscles, we shifted our focus to training the body as a system?
I love that.
Yeah. What if we started thinking about movement patterns and addressing those weak links?
That's what Clance Laylor would want you to do.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Okay.
And that's actually what we're going to dive into in the last part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We're going to talk about some practical ways to apply these principles to our own training.
I'm excited.
Me too, regardless of our fitness level or athletic aspirations.
Sounds good. Okay, so we've talked about PK Subban's training.
Yeah.
We've learned about the athlete activation system and the kinetic chain and everything.
Right.
But how do we actually apply all this to our own fitness?
That's the big question, right? Like, how do we take all this theory and turn it into something practical?
Exactly.
And the good news is you don't need to be a pro athlete to benefit from these ideas.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah?
So where do we even begin?
Well, I think the first step is to start thinking about your body as a system.
Okay.
So instead of thinking about like individual muscles and isolated exercises, try to think about movement patterns.
Okay.
How does your body move as a whole?
Okay.
Where do you feel like you have limitations?
Okay, this reminds me of those assessments that Clance Laylor does.
Right.
Are there ways that we can kind of assess ourselves?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
You can do some simple movement tests at home.
Okay.
Just to kind of get a sense of your mobility and your stability.
Okay, so like what kind of tests?
Well, you could try like squatting down,
Okay, yeah.
reaching overhead,
Okay.
even just walking around and paying attention to how your body feels.
Yeah.
That can tell you a lot.
Yeah. I'm noticing just sitting here, I'm
Yeah.
kind of hunched over.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to work on my posture a little bit.
Maybe.
Okay, so let's say we've identified some
Yeah.
areas that we need to improve.
Okay.
What's the next step?
Well, then you want to start incorporating exercises
Okay.
that address those weaknesses.
Right.
So remember, it's not about isolating muscles.
Mm-hmm.
It's about training movement patterns.
Right.
So instead of doing a bunch of bicep curls,
Okay.
focus on exercises that use multiple muscle groups.
Okay, so like those squats and Olympic lifts that Subban does.
Yeah, those are great examples of compound exercise.
Okay.
They work a lot of muscles at once.
Right, and there are variations of those.
Oh, yeah.
That we can do.
Tons.
Okay.
So, you could start with a bodyweight squat
Okay.
and then work your way up to adding weight
Okay.
as you get stronger.
Got it. This is sounding like a whole new way of looking at fitness.
It is.
It's not just about lifting weights and reps. It's about how your body moves as a whole.
How it functions.
Yeah, how efficiently it works.
Exactly.
And that can benefit anybody,
Yeah.
whether you're an athlete or just somebody
Mm-hmm.
who wants to feel better.
Yeah. Wants to move better, wants to avoid injuries.
Yeah. Okay, but I have to be honest. I'm a little intimidated.
Yeah, I get that.
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Do I need to
You don't have to overhaul everything.
Okay, good.
Just start small.
Okay.
Add in a few compound exercises.
Uh-huh.
Focus on good form.
Right.
And gradually increase the challenge.
Okay, so it's a process.
It is.
It's a journey.
It's not a race.
It's just like Subban and his 3-year plan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Real progress takes time.
Consistency?
Consistency.
Yeah, and patience, I guess.
Patience for sure.
Yeah, okay.
Don't get discouraged if you don't see results immediately.
Right.
Just keep at it.
Yeah, this has been so eye-opening for me.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm really starting to understand
Yeah.
how interconnected the body is.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah, I feel like I've unlocked some
Yeah.
secret code to
That's a great way to put it.
better movement
Yeah.
and performance.
And the best part is
Yeah.
everyone has access to that code.
Yeah, it's just about
Not some exclusive club.
No.
It's for everybody.
Understanding the principles and applying them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And being willing to learn and grow.
I'm inspired to hit the gym and put all this into practice.
Oh.
Maybe try those movement assessments.
Do it.
Yeah, maybe I have some hidden athletic potential.
I bet you do.
Just waiting to be unleashed.
I'm sure.
So this has been a really fascinating deep dive into unconventional training.
It has been.
We learned about PK Subban,
We learned about Clance Laylor,
the athlete activation system.
with the kinetic chain.
Yeah, we even learned a little bit about ourselves and our own fitness.
Always learning.
And I think the big takeaway here is it's not about following trends or quick fixes.
Always.
It's about...
It's about understanding your body, training it holistically, and embracing the power of functional strength.
Exactly. And never underestimate the power of a good squat.
You got it.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go find a squat rack
and
maybe watch some hockey for inspiration.
Sounds like a plan.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.